everybody, and welcome to Brand Talk. My name is Dr. John Tantillo, and this is another way to talk. And each week we do this podcast where we have brand originals give us an idea of how to be unique and how to provide benefits to the people that they meet and the businesses and clients that they interact with. And today is not, I should say, today is something special. Not only do we have somebody who is a dear friend of mine, but I get so excited about all the experiences that this man has had. And one of them is that he was in my favorite movie of all time. He was in The Godfather, and we're gonna talk about that. And he's also involved in medicine. He is the vice president of Toro's Medical School. So let me introduce to you formally, and let me put the glasses on. And these glasses he was responsible for, and we'll get into it once we started going. And my guest today is Dr. Jerry Cammarata. And Dr. Jerry Cammarata is the Chief Operating Officer, Dean of Student Affairs, and Associate Professor at Toro's College of Osteopathic Medicine, Middletown. Concurrently, he is the World Safety Organization liaison to the United Nations. As Associate Director of Coney Island Hospital, appointed member of the New York City Central Board of Education, along with his appointment as Commissioner of the Department of Youth and Community Development, Dr. Cammarata is dedicated to encouraging the success of students and instilling the practice of a healthy life. And what's very important, and I'm involved in this as well, you probably have seen my image promoting this very important book, The Fun Book of Fatherhood, an autobiographical account of raising his children. Cammarata is truly a pioneer of paternal leave. As a matter of fact, I was involved in editing that play that he was doing. So, I mean, this guy, he and I are always kibitzing as well as sharing. And we got so many wonderful things to say. And we actually put into practice what we talk about. And without any further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Jerry Cammarata. Dr. Jerry, welcome to Brand Talk.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, John.
Well,
you put my glasses on to join you with your glasses. We might as well be complimentary. After all, that's what branding is all about, isn't it?
Well, my grandson tells me, JT, you look funny with those glasses on. And his father tells me the same thing. And I love the glasses, and they're non-glare, because you said to me, John, you got to get non-glare glasses, and I'll put the glare glasses on, and you can see there's much more glare with these than they are with these.
And you're seeing the glare in mine. Absolutely. Look at that. You're the better prepared person. Well, that's because you're the host.
No. So let's get into this. I mean, you're a head of a medical school. What the heck is going on with this pandemic?
Well, the pandemic is really a terrible thing out there, and all you can do is stick to the science. That's what medicine is all about. That's what we preach at the Toro College of Osteopathic Medicine, where our doctors are just doing incredible work in all of the hospitals that they're assigned to now as graduates and residents. But those students that are still with us, but doing their clinical rotation, there's nothing. There's nothing that we should put aside when it comes to wearing your mask, having social distance, and just being intelligent about the things that we do. I know I find myself washing my hands more than I've ever done before.
And you're not obsessive compulsive.
And another,
In the old days, you would be diagnosed. Go ahead.
absolutely. You know, you have to eat a ton of dirt before you die. Well, today
Yes.
you can't eat a ton of dirt because you don't know what's in
In
the
the ton of dirt.
dirt.
Yeah.
So we need to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
And I think the healthcare profession is doing an admirable job. They are saving so many incredible lives. We hear about the deaths, and the deaths are tragic, close to 130,000. But nonetheless, we've got to focus in on the lives that we're saving, the competency of the workers in the healthcare profession. And by the way, in talking about branding and marketing, which is your expertise, the way they work together, the diligence of their effort every single day, that can't be seen. All we see is the brand. And that brand that we see out there is a good hospital doing great things and people being saved. And it's all because of the little pieces, the things that happen every day, with the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, with the doctor. So proud of our doctors, so very proud.
Well, you have to be proud of your doctors, and I couldn't agree with you more about you got to follow the science. I get a little bit annoyed when the amateurs talk about the science, and they don't know what the heck they're in fact talking about. And I had mentioned this once before. When I was when Ellis Hennigan was on, and we were talking about how political this had become, and everybody wants to outperform or outshine or outsmart everybody regarding this, and there's nothing like good old science.
It's got to be at the top of our list what needs to be done. Unfortunately, there is culture, there is science, there's attitude, there are those behaviors that come from our family, from our background. And this is a country that is not made up of 200, 300, 400 years of similarity of thinking, similarity of culture. We are people that have come together, and we're all trying to do the very, very best we can. But quite often, in trying to adhere to the values and the benefits of even the Declaration of Independence, as we now begin to celebrate July 4th, we don't feel that we're necessarily coming together. Some people want to do this, some people want to do that. People are threatened, and we should not be threatened.
Yeah. Well, I'm trained as a psychologist. You're trained as an audiologist. Am I right?
An audiologist and a speech language pathologist.
Yes. And I don't know if you had the biases or the attitudes that when I was in psychology, if you were a clinical psychologist, what did you know? You were a clinical psychologist. But if you were an academic psychologist, you knew everything. And so what I began to see using my branding lens, I saw this bias, or let's say a Fauci type, or somebody who was an infectious disease guy or gal. They knew better than the clinicians. My brand is better than your brand. So if we don't have a triple blind study that's done with 20 years of research. The the cure, the effectiveness of the drug simply cannot be. And I like you maybe to address what I'm talking about, this idea that if our whatever we study is more important than what you study.
Well, that should never be, and it would really
It
be
should
nice.
never be.
It should never be. And it would be nice if all of our studies somewhat paralleled each other and could be integrated in what's taking place. But that's not going to happen. All we can do is be very introspective about our own individual behavior. And if we can leap out of science for a moment and leap into the family, what better way to raise a family when you're thinking about branding and thinking about marketing, but to really value the relationship you have with your children and what your children do according to the behaviors that you do. And in fact, every day is a marketing day from the time you get up till the time you go to bed as a parent. And you're constantly showing. You're orchestrating the world around you, your children in the dining room, in the bathroom, getting them ready to go to school. They're seeing how you behave, how you relate to those activities. And if you relate to them in a positive, constructive, risk-free environment, they're going to absorb all of that. If you do it by hugging them and by smiling, they're going to absorb all of that. And in the end, what you're going to have is a family that's going to be addressed by other people, and they're going to say, what a great family that Tantillo family is. My God, they always have a smile on their face. They're always respectful. But that had to grow. It had to grow out of a seed that came from the parents and their parents and their parents.
Yeah. What do you think is the most important component of being a parent?
I think the most important component is to understand that you're not a teacher, that you are a parallel learner with your children. That in fact, every day, your vulnerability, along with the vulnerabilities of our children, are going to be seen by each other. They're going to see how human, how respectful we are in being able to say, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You got it and I didn't. And when you have those kinds of interactions and that we are a learning group, you find that emotions build better, attitudes build better, IQ builds better, and in the end, I think everybody benefits.
How do you think your children are different from your grandchildren? What do you think is the biggest change that you've seen? And do you prefer? I know a lot of people love being a parent. I mean, a grandparent. Being a parent was could be root canal. I like you to maybe address. I like you to address that.
Well, I think the older I got, the better at learning what it was to be a learner. So I think that I'm even better with my grandchildren today than I am with my children. For example, I will never let a moment go by where I won't ask them a question, even about things that I know, just to give them an opportunity to let me know that they know it and they're so very, very proud of it. Whereas a younger parent, I would have probably, and I was, not in a guilty way, but in a developmental way, I was the parent. I was at the top of the heap. I was the one who said, well, this is the way we're going to do it. And there was an expectation that that was the way it was going to be done. But as we get older, there's one thing that we learn, John, and that is we learn, excuse me, to accept the advice of other people more. And the more we accept advice, the better we grow, the more we're listening. And in the process, life really goes on in a far better way and in a far more enriched way.
Right. But how do you think today is different from when you were raising your children X amount of years ago?
Well, today we have the millenniums, and the millenniums are very, very demanding. They want things. They want things now. Uh, they want to be shown every bit of how it's done, so that they can be more accepting of that. And it's not a generation where you can just tell stories to. They don't want to be told stories. They want things that are a little bit more concrete, a little bit more exacting, and they want to know how the world around them is going to make it easier for them. Now, that
Wow.
may sound like a contradiction in words, and it may sound like, well, if that's what you want, then you're really self serving. But not
Right.
really. I think this is a generation that's very, very smart. They realized how we were so caught up by doing things, and that we spent little time about thinking what's good for us.
Yeah.
And we lived in an industrial revolution climate, as we still do, that is more focused on the corporation than it is on the family, on the parents, and on children. And because of that, we have suffered in the way our relationships have taken place.
Yeah. One thing that I found very fascinating about you is that you were involved with paternal leave, not only having to do with women, but men. And you asked me to read a play that you were doing, and I was so fascinated about that. And I'd like you to talk to our listeners about this project that you were involved with many years ago, where
Well,
you got men to be able to take family leave.
Well, important to note, and again, this is a program about branding and marketing, and I don't want to diss that for other kinds of conversations, because there's a lot to be learned about the tenets of marketing and branding. But nothing happens in life all by itself. There's always something that triggers an action. And in my case, I can't take the credit of all of a sudden coming up with a brilliant idea that dads ought to have leave, and let's call it paternity leave. For in fact, there was women's suffrage, there was the ERA, there was the women's movement that was very active in the mid 1900s. There was Gloria Steinem talking profusely in the media that there will not be equality in the home unless we have equality at work.
I love it.
And here I am in the Board of Education of New York City as an itinerant teacher, very happy doing that, having my second child, because I was reflecting upon the damage that, and I'm going to say damage because I don't mean it in the true definition, but in the context of what we're talking about today, the damage that took place with my first daughter, Elizabeth, when she came into the room one morning and said to me, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, when you come home from work, can you bring me home a rat?" And I said, "Why the heck would you want me to bring you home a rat?" She said, "Well, because you're always talking about going to the rat race." And I was like, "Rat race is all about."
I
And
love it. I
you know,
love it.
you know what
Mhm.
that does to the human ego, to the human experience, to flatten you out by a young child who has just looked at your inner core of what your life is all about, running from this job and that job, all for the right reasons. And the reasons, of course, you're trying to raise a family and make a living, but failing to realize, as the millenniums are doing now, that what about moi? You got to think about it. That changed me. Elizabeth changed me. And from that point on, and because of what I heard from Gloria Steinem, what I heard about or from the world around me, I realized that dads had equal rights as did moms. And if they had a maternity leave, there should be a paternity leave.
Yeah. Well, oh, see, one of the problems with branding, and I hope you don't throw something at me when I say it, but I mean, I know you as this executive at Toro, a dear friend, but recently you have become this expert on fatherhood. That's that's your brand, you see. And I mean, I got to get into The Godfather with you. I got to get into your acting and all this other stuff. However, I mean, right now you have done a tremendous uh, job reinforcing this, this fatherhood thing, and that's the downside of the brand part.
And,
Uh,
and to
you
your
that
point,
we
John,
that you have. Go ahead.
and to your point, we all become branders.
Yes.
And that is, one person does it, two people do it, 10 people do it. The more people that we can get to understand the value of something and want to execute it, then that branding concept proliferates. And in that, you now change the culture. And the culture in the United States must so dramatically be changed, not from the culture of the Industrial Revolution, where corporations are the ones on the pedestal, but rather we change to a culture of family, where every decision we make in this country says, well, what about the family here? What about the family there? It's good to do business. It's good to have industry, but what about the family? How do we treat the family first so that we can reduce drugs, we can reduce addiction, we can reduce the poor grades of our children? Half of our families are two-wage earners today, John, and that should never be.
Right.
Are one of two countries in the entire United States that does not have a family policy, and that's sad. And then you take all of that, and on top of it, you look at how that has affected our women. 24% of all of our women have STEM jobs. That's a terrible, terrible rating.
Right. 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 You're listening to Dr. Jerry Cammarata, the author of what is it called? The book of
The Fun Book of Fatherhood. I think it
the
shows
fun book.
it shows up
Show
backwards,
it.
doesn't it? Does it show up backwards? No, it shows up the right way.
No, we're good here.
There you
We
go.
only get mixed up in the beginning, but once we're going, we're great. The Fun Book of Fatherhood.
That's it.
Okay. And this is Brand Talk, another way to talk, where we're not going to yell and scream at each other. We're going to have some good old conversation. And when I talk about good old conversation, I want you to talk a little bit about The Godfather. You were in The Godfather.
That was
I
one.
can't believe you were in my favorite movie of all time. I've never seen it enough. And you met Marlon Brando. I never met Marlon Brando. Tell me about Marlon Brando.
I did not, John. He was dead. You see, we had already buried him.
That's right.
I was in the funeral scene, and it took us 12 hours to do that scene, actually.
Okay.
And it was done at Calvary Cemetery.
Calvary Cemetery, yeah.
And everybody has the vision of being there at the gravesite, and the number of today incredibly famous actors that were there. But for you and your guests, who do you think was the most famous actor in that particular scene, the funeral scene in The Godfather Part 1? Who do you think it could be, or it was?
Oh, jeez.
Well, well, just so we can move the conversation, it was Richard Conte.
Richard Conte. Holy, my father loved Richard Conte. Go ahead.
Richard would stand on the side, and literally you couldn't go near him. He had his entourage. He was the star of stars, but you could sit with everybody else. Pacino and the rest of the guys were just the rest of the guys. We'd sit on the lawn, we'd have a bite to eat, we'd wait for the completion of a particular part of the scene to do another scene. It was the greatest experience in the world. And if for nothing else, to have been in The Godfather, a movie that is renowned throughout the world, the way it was done, Coppola's capacity at really allowing emotion to flow through every note and through every scene, breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking.
How did you get the part?
Well, I was already Actors Equity and Screen Actors Guild. and they find you. And they found me early on, and it was very, very small. But I can tell you, hundreds of people who had lines ended up not having lines at the very, very end. I would like to go to Paramount just to get the footage that is on the floor that was never used from the Godfather. But unfortunately, Paramount will not let any of that footage go. I'll have to go see Coppola, I guess, maybe to get some footage.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I could just imagine. And I take it you were just in the one. You weren't in two.
Yeah, no, just in that one. And then, of course, my academics took me in a different direction. So I really never did that much after that. I did some background work and analyzed that with Billy Crystal, and also with a CBS Big Apple series, and not too many things. They were a lot of fun, but the training that I received in college and at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, I think, was a training that helped me with life. Mm-hmm. And I was able to understand that those skills are equally transferable in life.
You related to me a conversation that you and your father had regarding your profession. And he gave you some advice that would be real, that I believe our audience would really like to hear you talk about. Go ahead.
Talking about the whole branding of a parent, and then what comes through that branding, that language of a parent. He knew I liked to do a lot of different things. I enjoyed playing the drums. I enjoyed playing the guitar. I had asked him if I can go to the city, coming from Staten Island. Wow, you're going to go to the city every day? I want to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And he implanted one important branding quote.
This is good.
Said, I will give you anything you want in life. Never abuse anything I give you.
I love it. Wow. I'm getting goosebumps.
So incredible that he did what parents today with the millennials should be doing. And that is, I will help you. Wherever you want to go, I will be there. But please, don't take advantage. Don't abuse the skills. Don't throw away beautiful things in your life. Use them to make yourself as healthy and as better as you possibly can.
Right.
And it stayed with me my whole life. And to add to that, and what drew me away from theater and drew me to the academics was clearly what I realized. And how I realized this, I don't know, John, but I'm at an audition on one of the stages where they were holding it in Broadway, and David Merrick, who is a name of the past.
Wow. I know that. Yeah.
Was sitting in the audience, and I did my shtick, and he said, "Thank you." And I walked off. And I said, David Merrick doesn't really care if I have a college degree or not.
Mm-hmm.
The job on stage is to get the best talented person in order to do it. And I said, well, what happens if I'm not the best talented person?
Whoa.
Does that mean my life is not worth it? That I'm going to be waiting on tables the rest of my life and not reaching what I thought would be my value? And I said, I've got to do something else. I've got to get a good education. And that was my other quote coming from my father. When I said, I'm going to go to Hofstra University and I'm going to study acting. I said, that's all I want to do. I don't care about anything else. He says, that's exactly what I want you to do. He says, I want you to go to college and get a college degree and study what your passion allows you to study. He says, because when you get out of college, and if I should die, I will know you have all of the abilities in order to make a living, to take care of yourself and to raise your family because you became educated. And I says, wow. That's incredible. What great advice to give me that flexibility. And I just hope I haven't disappointed him.
Yeah. Well, I guess my parents if I were to tell them that I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be an artist, they would have said to me, "I'll give you an artist." They weren't as diplomatic as you are,
Boom, boom, boom,
you,
boom.
but and what's going on now is all of that stuff, all that creative stuff I'm doing now at 69. I'm doing. I just had a birthday, but I'm doing it now, and I'm having a great time of it.
But you're taking all of those rich skills, and you're doing it through a vehicle that is unique, which gives you a platform, and that platform is allowing you to enlighten other people, and you're expanding your brand, and you're hoping that people will begin to absorb it and want to inculcate that.
Yes, yeah, and the secret, you and I think share this, and there are some younger students of mine that are very negative, and I can't understand a 40-year-old being negative. And what do I mean by negative? How many coronavirus deaths are there? What's going to happen to the economy? Doom and gloom. There's no one wants to be around people like that.
Yeah, John, do you remember your post not too long ago when you said 30? I believe it was 30% of the voters provide negative information.
Yes.
Now that resonated with me, not from the political perspective, although that was the reference, but it resonated with me in that how many parents are constantly telling their children, don't do this, don't do that, as opposed to, wow, thank you for picking that up. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Hang around, as you so richly have said, people hang around people who are enthusiastic, who are enlightened, people who are positive, who are humorous. And every day you got to tell a joke, even if it's a crummy joke. You've got to tell a joke.
Yeah. Well, here's something. My sister, myself, and my mother were at Sloan Kettering Hospital. My mother has just been diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay. And she passed in 2008. And my nephew is thinking about going to William and Mary or Oswego. And my sister, she's nervous. With my mother, and she's telling me, I want Brian to go to Oswego because if he goes to William and Mary, it will be too much pressure. Without a beat, I say, Diane, do not make that decision for your son. All right? Do not pass on your fears to him. If he fails, it will be his doing. But if you get in the way of that, it will not be good.
Right.
Fast forward, he graduated with honors from William and Mary. He went to the University of Virginia Medical School, and now he's doing a postdoc in cardiac procedures at the University of Southern Florida. This kid, okay, all right, and my brother-in-law, who says nothing, says like 2 words comes out, anything positive, says to me 3 years, when he graduated from medical school, Johnny, thank you for convincing us of Brian going to William and Mary. Yeah. And to this day, I get goosebumps. Yeah. And if there's you are a great example of reinforcing and providing for your students all those wonderful positive outcomes. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Whether they're your children and they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years old, or they're a medical student in a medical school, basically everyone is the same. People need a chance to know that they can talk to somebody that will give them reasonable advice, give them an opportunity to think themselves, and to also try to get from them what options that they may have that they can explore. And then, even with young children, it's amazing how after they've explored options and you've shown them A, or they've shown you A, B, and C, that they pretty much will come up with the right option in the way in which they need to move in life. And because of your interaction, one individual has had an extraordinary ride in the educational system and is now becoming a credit to society by being a physician. Imagine if all of us could help just one person make it through that quagmire of life. And sometimes it's a quagmire, and just get them to the top of the heap where they so richly deserve to be. There will be many people that will come to me, as by the way, go to teachers, go to professors, will go to you and say, can you help me? Can you get me into here? Can you do a letter of recommendation? And I do it. However, I do it with one caveat. I says, the opportunity and the privilege that I've given to you, you now must pay forward, and you must now give it to one other person who will come to you asking for help and asking for an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah. We're talking to Dr. Jerry Cammarata, who is the vice president of Toros Medical School. And this is Brand Talk, another way to talk. Oh, I'm just so happy that we're doing this.
Yeah,
What? Go ahead.
Just let me tell you that I'm not the vice president. That's way above my pay grade here at the medical school.
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
the operating officer, but I appreciate that whoever heard it may want to consider it. That
Okay.
was a great recommendation.
Well, anything for you, buddy.
Thank
you. You know, I teach a course in social media marketing, and it's because of social media marketing that you and I not only are friends, not only do we kibitz offline, online on Facebook, but you were responsible for me getting a position at Toro. What I did because of Facebook, I was bold. I said, "Can you and I meet?" And we met at Seinfeld's Diner on the Upper West Side.
Remember that well?
And yeah, and in other words, and this is what I tell my students. For me, social media isn't some theoretical course that I take. It was something that really applied and really got me a position, because you recommended somebody in the graduate school to send a resume to. And at the time I said, well, it's not today, it's tomorrow. And I sent the resume. And in February of 2018, in the middle of the week, I get a call from Saber Brock, the dean of the Graduate School of Business, to ask for me to teach business statistics, something I hadn't taught in like over 30 years. So that's all because of you, and it's all because of social media. And I can't underscore the importance of social media and how that basically changed my life. It changed my life because you and I are such good friends, and we know so many people we know. I mean, we're constantly, getting likes from really, really wonderful people. Go ahead.
Everything really is social media today, whether it be family, whether it be business, whether it be what we do in the classroom. What we're really trying to do is make sure that the world around us has an opportunity to work on the behalf of people. And the more we can do that, the better it's going to be. Right now, 90% or 1.5 million moms are millennial moms, and they're out there and they're in the workforce, working very, very hard to get things done for their children, and they rely so heavily on social media in terms of tracking down the resources that they need. So the buzzwords that go along with that are very important. Also, the Pinterests that are put up, these
Yes.
little punch boards where people can put up things that they want to communicate. These are just so important. These bite-sized pieces of information can go a long way in helping to get service to the people that so richly need it. Years ago, they used to poo-poo, particularly what Hillary Clinton used to say about, it takes a village to bring up a child. And, it just takes a good parent to bring up a child. Well, nobody is right and nobody is wrong. But the fact is, there was something spiritual, miraculous, valuable, intrinsic to the culture of the time, going back to the early 1900s and before, when if something happened to a child, that person in the store, on the street, the police officer would immediately be going back to the parent to try to convey that, so that in fact the behavior of the child could be changed, could be made better. And if we don't have the village looking out for all of our children, and if we don't have all the people in the village working cooperatively to put out positive messages to our children are going to be lost, because we're not about to change the Industrial Revolution culture that we have soon. What this country needs right now is a national family policy. We need a president to call for a White House conference on families, as there was one in 1980, and President Carter appointed me, Coretta Scott King, and many others, in trying to develop policies. But those policies are old. They're dull. We need policies that look at the millennial and look at the world that will be traveling before us in the next couple of decades. And we need to put a policy in that will be friendly to all parents and children.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I love it. I work for the Carter campaign here in New York.
Oh, you were
yeah, but real local stuff. And if you remember, 1980, Kennedy challenged him, and I went to the Democratic convention, and that's where I was a graduate student for many years, and I come out of it and I see all of my friends that in the seminary that were for Carter, and that was quite a Jimmy Carter, from not necessarily from a political point of view, but from an ideological point of view, he was a good man, or is a good man. Everybody's got kind of issues with different political types, but you lived such a interesting life. Go ahead. And Coretta Scott King too. Oh,
that was a lot of fun, being two tables away from her, working on the details of the family. That was an experience, another one of those experiences that I will never forget. And then also to be able to have my oldest daughter accompany me, the whole family actually went, and we were with Amy Carter at a celebration at night. And my daughter Elizabeth and Amy had a chance to meet. And I thought that was particularly inspirational, because Amy then became somebody in her life to see on the news,
right,
and to emulate to a degree. I think that that was a great experience in my life. I will never forget it.
No, I can imagine. And how do you? Let me ask you this: how do you see medical schools these days? It's what is the future of medical schools?
Are you ready?
Is there going to be more teleconferencing? Are there going to be more teleconferencing visits? Are there going to be more Zoom classrooms? What's going to happen to medical schools?
Let me say a couple of things about that. Right now, you would not think this, but right now, the applications for medical school are up 86% across the board nationally, not just to Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine, but to the national arena of medical schools.
Wow.
You would think that with the pandemic, many people would say, you know what, maybe not medicine, maybe I'd rather be an accountant. I'd rather go into business.
Right.
But no, this is the millennial generation. This is where they take the bull by the horns and they say, this belongs to me. This is my generation to make better. And they're not only coming into medicine by droves, but they want to heal. They want to make sure that they are on the front line of bench to bed. They want to know their research, they want to know their science, and they want to be able to so brilliantly and beautifully provide that to the patients that are before them. So I think that is a big factor that we have going for us.
Yeah.
Medicine, along with life, along with the iPhone, along with the watches now that can pick up your heartbeat.
Sure.
We are in a different generation. This pandemic has made us realize that we are ready, we are able, and we are good for change. And that telemedicine is not bad, it's different. It's another way to reach people, particularly who could not be reached. And let me give you the following example, John, because from a marketing perspective, this is an absolute wow in my mind, and it's always been an image that I've seen. You can go into the depths of the densest jungle in the entire world, and I will guarantee you will find a crushed Coca-Cola can on the ground. That is absolutely incredible. And to parallel that, you now have computers for $100 that can be charged by solar. And we are now putting computers in villages where there is no education whatsoever. So technology is providing us the lead. Our job is to accept the challenge, not to reject it and to immediately recoil and to go back into our old way of life because it's comfortable, but to be able to say, as long as it's science, as long as we have good jurisprudence in what we're doing, as long as we're ethical, as long as we're moral, we have a requirement, a responsibility to change and to look at a new world and to be part of the development of that new world. Good things are happening, John.
Yeah. Well, I talk about brands all the time. You mention osteopathic medicine. What is the difference of osteopathic medicine and non-osteopathic medicine?
Well, there are basically parallel roads you can take in learning medicine, and that will be the allopathic medicine, that would be the MD, and then there's the osteopathic road, and that would be DO. Basically, they are both interested, and they both highly indulge themselves, rightfully so, into the essence of science. Where they diverge a little bit is with the osteopathic physician. There is this understanding, this complete understanding that medicine is just not going to do it, that the human being, the human experience is mind, body, and spirit. Mm-hmm. And the three of them are so richly tied together and are working together in a way that is the miracle of the human body, that human body will thrive. But when something is in error, the body collapses. For example, someone comes into, and by the way, just to make a point, I am not a physician. I am not just, but I'm a chief operating officer here at the medical school and dean of students. But what I hear from the doctors is the following. You can have someone come into the office of an osteopathic physician saying that I have a headache. And they'll do a neurological and a couple of other things in the office. And just to shorten the story, maybe they would get medication for the headache. Let's simplify it and just simply say an aspirin, Tylenol. Whereas an osteopathic physician would want to take a history, as an allopathic physician would, and would discover that the headache is really the result of a spiritual, environmental, emotional, social occurrence in that person's life. If we can fix that, and the physician taking the responsibility and working with the patient to do that, if we can fix that, homeostasis will be restored, mind, body, and spirit will be synced, and that patient will be enriched and will feel better and will do better. So it's that mind, body, and spirit. It is the osteopathic manipulative medicine that goes along with the profession. And that is that the body works when it is coordinated, when it is in sync with itself, and through manipulation that takes place. And it's an extraordinary form of medicine. And I would urge all of your listeners to have two full physical examinations, one from an MD and one from a DO. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised that the DO that you have as your primary care physician will be an extraordinary individual that will talk to you, will work with you, that will want to make sure that when you leave that office, he knows about you, your family, your environment, your circumstances, and wants to make sure that they're all working on behalf of your well-being.
I tangentially heard about this, but you said it so eloquently. I think you guys really need to promote this discipline that I don't think it's gotten it hasn't gotten the respect that it deserves. I really think that is wonderful, because I see doctors all the time. I'm constantly seeing doctors, but this sounds like something that I should consider, especially my diabetes.
Well, let me suggest this to you. You are a branding show, and we are talking about marketing. I think it would be a grand idea.
I agree.
The marketing department from the American Osteopathic Association on, again, asking them, what is osteopathic medicine and what is being done in this country to market a profession that is so richly helping all of those that are in need?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Now, let me ask you this, because we only got a few more minutes, and then we're going to have to say a fond adieu. Why am I up there? No? Okay. Where is Jerry? Is Jerry still here? Okay. Did we lose Jerry? Okay. What I wanted to do is I wanted to ask Jerry to give us some of the I wanted to ask him for his website. So what we could do is ask our listeners to go to the website. But I'm a little nervous here, and I'm sure my friends are going to be. There he is. There he is. Okay, it happens. It happens. What did you put? You did a Tantello? You pushed the wrong button?
I did a Tantello. I must say, I'm still learning from my grandchildren as to what this thing called keyboard is all about.
Right.
I say that, by the way, very lovingly, because when I'm with them, as I will be with them tomorrow, I will say, my heavens, what is this? Grandpa, that's a keyboard. I didn't know that. And if I pushed it, let me show you, Grandpa. Wow, thank you for helping me.
Yeah. How old are your grandchildren?
Oh, they're 10 and 7 right now.
Yeah, mine's 9. -9.
Oh,
Donovan.
that's great.
Yeah. Oh, he's a clip. And it's all, as we all know, it's all about them.
Right,
I mean, when he
exactly.
wants to go on Facebook Live, JT, he calls me JT. JT, can we go on Facebook Live? I said, sure, Donovan. Well,
Yeah,
we have to be social distanced.
I've got
Um,
great.
but what you were mentioning, to get back, is that the osteopathic medicine folks, that society, to bring them on so that they could explain to our listeners exactly what this is, and maybe this is an alternative, because not everybody is into traditional medicine. Go ahead.
I think it would be a great idea. It would be a service, and again, it becomes something valuable to you and your listeners in terms of extending that branding. And if you don't have understanding, you don't have reinforced branding.
Right.
So this is a
But
good time.
before we got cut off, do you have a website that gives all of these wonderful things that you have done? Is it drjerrycamarata.com? Is that the
Well,
way?
they could go into www.camarata.com.
Camarata.com.
They can go into the funbookoffatherhood.com, and they
Sure.
certainly can follow me on Facebook with all of the things that we do. And again, we do it lovingly on behalf of the people that I work with every day, that I'm so proud of them for the good deeds that they provide others in life.
Well, that's great. And let me ask you, I hope I don't put you on the spot by this question. Any regrets? I mean, do you ever say, what would have happened if I would have been that big actor, gotten that real big part?
Oh, I have regrets every day, John. And I think that's what gives me the motivation for tomorrow. Because if we didn't have regrets and we had simply contentment, then we would just want to retire to West Palm Beach and the sun. And my feeling is one, you've got to have regrets to be motivated and to keep active. Two, we must work very, very hard to expunge the word retirement out of the vocabulary.
I'll never retire. I
And
couldn't
all
agree with you.
we just need to move to another job, to another level of involvement and an excitement. And if we can do that, I think we're all gonna have a good time. But yes, I have regrets every day.
I couldn't agree with you more. If do less of it. I mean, if you're getting tired, do less of it, but don't retire. I thought that retirement is something that you do when you haven't done what you really wanted to do in life to begin with.
Right.
And go ahead.
If I can selfishly, John, and this is very, very selfish, even by holding up my book, The Fun Book of Fatherhood, I really do suggest that your guests get a copy of the book, not from me, but for themselves, because this is a book that is not a book to tell all, and that this is the way you do it. This is a book that gives you insight as to how the animals have parented. It probably should be in every zoology class in every university. But if we begin to look at the animals that have worked so very, very hard in terms of keeping their tribes together, we will see good things and bad things. We would see things that we want to emulate. We will see things that are not so good to do. And in the process, we can really be better parents for it, and a great tool with the children. They love what the animals do, and they want to do it too. It gives you a chance to go to the zoo, which is what the millennials want today. They don't want advice. They want things that they can do that will allow them to make their own decisions on how to do things.
Wow. Well, let me just say, this interview today was wonderful. You gave me so many insights, not only about you, but about fatherhood, parenthood, medical school. And I'm just so very happy that you and I are friends. And I guess we can thank Dr. Louis Primavera for that.
Yes.
because he was my professor at St. Francis College in 1970 when I first met him. So that was that's 50 years ago. My God.
Lou's a great
My
fellow. I'm on calls with him every week. I just love his insight and
oh,
his sincere desire to really want to help the students succeed in life. He's given his whole career to making sure others will succeed, and he's
uh,
a blessing.
both, both of you are such dear friends. And once again, I want to thank you for being part of Brand Talk. And remember, go brand yourself.
I will.
Okay, Jerry. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next week, folks. Remember, Brand Talk, another way to talk.